Hello. Friday, 4 p.m. like usual. We would do World of Warcraft. Today I'm having this. You can see a little bit of it. It's like the cow duck with me. Let's do some Warcraft. So um, so this is a continuation tutorial series. We have actually done 3 episodes before that. We have. Hey, hello, cows friend. Yes, you are my biggest fan because you have the cow. I love the cow duck so much. This is the I think this fourth episode. So in the past 3 episodes, we have built a schema for Terminus DB in schema.org using Wacko. To be specific, it's Wacko Pi. So because I'm a Pythonister, I'm doing doing Python is my best choice of doing it, and it's actually quite fun and easy. I would like to maybe do a recap before I started. Oh, by the way, this is the new setting, so I hope that you're experiencing better sound and video quality this time around. And you can see the camera is new as well. I still haven't figured out the lights, so it's still a bit like of shadow at the back, but my face should be clearer. So I don't know whether that's something that you want to see, but yeah. I will show you the code. So the code is this one that we have built from the previous episodes. So I would give you a quick tour if you are new to this series. So you know that we have two CSVs. So if you look at the left-hand side of my atom, my coding environment, that on the left-hand side, I have two CSVs that I download from schema.org. So with those two, it describe a very complex schema that describe a lot of, for example, products. And sometimes it's not like even not physical products. It could be an event, a concert, and things like that. So um, so you see that we have types, which is basically objects in the graph, and we have properties. So properties could be two things. Could be another object that actually belongs to a property of another object. The relation between these two objects, one is the property of the other, or this property could be a simple type. You can see we have the mapping at the beginning. There's the dictionary here. Those simple type actually they are for us. For terminators, for like us, that we call them in the terminus DB the data types. So they are actually more like an abstract type. It's not a specific object. It's kind of like a general object is kind of a type of data. So you can see that we treat them slightly differently. We did that last episode. So what we have done so far, we have try to construct the schema object from the types first. So we put all the types as a doc type in Terminus DB. Because from the CSV we are given the labels and description, we just put them in. So they are called labels and comments in the CSVs. And so, here I'm using a pandas, so Python pandas, to go through it like row by row. So you can see that so it come in as like a series. So for each row, it got all these different properties like a series. So it got like an ID. So each object got an ID, got a label, got a comment. I put them as a doc type in the schema graph. And also the catch is if any of these IDs are the simple type, like then we would just we just do some specific things. We would give them an extra property called values, or like I don't know, float values, things like that. So we just because they need to have different names, otherwise it would give you a very funny error that's super difficult to debug. So I just avoid those because it could be quite complex when it goes into Terminus DB, when it goes into the prologue and the restore, to avoid those recursive problems. So we just like give them a different name, because this is a different ID. This doesn't really matter. It just means that these are the values of that simple type, and we are just assign their corresponding data type to them, because it would be like, for example, floats would be holding a floating point, a decimal number, for a text, here that will be holding a string. So we just like, deal with all these from here. So for the details, you can check my last video. Also we have, so we did a little bit more complex building as well. So we do have the subtypes and the subtype of. So these two actually, uh, remember, like this kind of like things that come with for each row, for each object, it comes with this subtype and subtype of. They are describing a relationship for different objects. So an object could be like a child of another object. It could be a parent of another object. So for that kind of subclass relations, we deal with it. Like I believe it's the second episode that we do that. That we put them together. And so these two functions are the function call. So they execute. You can see we have execute here to execute a series that we have built with the previous functions. So you can see the general like flow here now is that we have we reading the CSVs for the type, and then we would construct those objects that in that function. We use, like I said, like this pandas data frame. So uh, we would do an apply, so apply it row by row. So access is equal to 1. It's just like row by row. For each row, it would carry out that operation and build a Wacom query object that we would return back as the extra, column in that data frame. So add-on object is like the subtype. Oh, my camera. Oh, it's like the subclass of and the subtypes and things like that. That is in the second functions that I can scroll back up. So it's this function, we're constructing them, and we would put them in another column because you can see from these two, like in the middle, that when we execute them, the operation is slightly different. It just like the difference is mainly because for the add-ons, for building the object query for each object, you only build itself once, so you only have one query object that is returned back. But for the add-ons, because one object could have multiple parents, multiple child, and they may have parents and child at the same time. So they will have multiple objects that we created. So they will come back as a list. So all these so this is a column of list. So for each one of them, we have to kind of unpack them and pack it again with a Wacom and then execute them, and then wrap it together and execute them. So these I explained in the last episode, if I remember correctly. So it's episode 3 if you want to catch the details. And after that, after all these are built, then of course we call these functions to execute them. Yeah, we do create and delete the database here because I want to build the schema from scratch every time. I do believe if it's not already, I think it's the auto color correction that gave me this weird, like I look like a ghost. I would figure this out next episode, but we already have a quality improve of the streaming, which is very nice. I don't have any more frame drops and crazy things anymore. Good. So yeah, what I want to build a schema from scratch every time because because the like I think now, if I may be wrong because like I'm not following the back end very closely right now, like we can't do like we can't just like change the schema out of the blue because um yeah, so I'm just avoiding error. It may work. We may be able to deal with it, but but I do believe in the future we will have a flexible schema that we could just load in the data and then we would design the schema later, which is super cool. I'm so excited. We will have that in the next release, which will be great. And I can't wait to do more tutorial with the next release and Hub, which will be like a super duper like cool feature. We can do time travel, things like that. So it's like a new era of Terminators. Yay! So yeah, right now, if you can see my preview on your top right hand corner, I think if it's not mirrored, so it's like there. Yeah, so you see that this is a browser, so it's just like a browser that I open. If you are super paying attention, then this is Chrome. You can use Firefox, whatever. It should still work. I don't know if you're using like very old version of Internet Explorer. I don't know. We haven't tested like super old browser, but it should work in like major browsers for now. And so if you haven't watched the first episode, then actually this is where we see the database and schema. You can see that now is fresh. The reason being because this is actually on my new computer. So I just literally just like pulled the Docker image a few minutes beforehand. So I was like rushing and like trying to get this set up as quick as possible. So so yeah, like so now it's start from scratch. So if I do this delete database, I will come into an error, so which is not a good thing. So let's come on my keyboard. So yeah, I'm using a new keyboard as well, which I can show you is like a tiny keyboard. Yeah, now the color correction freak out. Like it's a tiny keyboard, so my typing speed and typing accuracy is highly affected. I will have a better keyboard soon, but it's right now it's just this. Okay. Um. Yeah. So this should be fine. Let's run it. Make sure that it works before we develop furthermore. So let's save this file and go to our terminal. So you will be able to see my terminal below the browser preview screen. So here I am already in tutorials, which is the right directory. Let's double check. Yes, I do have my file. So Python. Oh, right. By the way, okay, we are doing it very scratch because like I haven't set up the Python environment. That's one thing that I forgot. Like I do have pyenv. So sorry about that. I'm like, oh my god, pyenv. Sorry, nv. So what I gotta do is I just gotta install it now. So virtual. Sorry about that. I should have done that like earlier. Just pyenv virtual. Why you don't autocorrect? I am worried now. Virtual env 3.7. Oh, maybe I have to get pyenv 3.7 first. Oh god. Pyenv 6.3. That's what I was using. Up. Maybe pyenv install. I haven't done this for ages, so like I had my pyenv environment in my other in my other laptop, and it's working perfectly for ages. So I haven't touched it. Like you only do this like once in quite a while, right? So yeah, I hope it works. I do have Xcode and Python installed. That's what I do. Like first thing that I do after I got my laptop is to have Xcode and Homebrew and Python. So at least that part is done. But yeah, I haven't got my. I only have right now. I only have Python 2.7 because it just like what comes with Homebrew and like the pyenv virtual env. So and then from there I can so little Python general knowledge. So what I'm doing here is that I have a Python virtual environment. So there are a lot out there, right? So there are pipenv, there are poetry, there are conda that come with other conda or mini conda. But my choice is pyenv with the virtual env wrapper. So what's that funky thing? So pyenv is actually a and kind of like a Python environment that lets you have multiple versions of Python installed on your computer without this crazy unmanageable path. So that's why I rely heavily on pyenv to get my latest or my most trusted Python 3.7. I don't do Python 2. Well, if I have to, I can read Python 2, but I am not writing in Python 2 anymore. I can maintain, well, I can maintain the code in Python 2, but like I would just change it into Python 3 if I can. Um, so yeah, so that's where I get my trusted Python 3.7, point 3 in this case, because like that's like what I remember from my other laptop setup. So and with virtual env, it's like a wrapper that lets you, even like for Python 3.7, I have with my other computer, I have millions of different virtual environments that's created with Python 3.7. They are for different projects. I like to keep things separate because I don't want to run into like, you know, I updated, let's say I updated pandas for this tutorial, and then I go back to my old code, and panda is not the same version. That code was quite old, and then I run, using the same version of the newest version of pandas, and I just like give me a no. So I don't want that to happen. Um, yeah, so that's what I'm doing. It's quite slow. Sorry about that. We would do that afterwards. So maybe we just like start coding now. So we are kind of like doing it like really blindly now. So like sorry about that. I was like really busy today. We have a lot of videos coming out recently. So which is a very good thing. I like providing contents for people. I like sharing knowledge, and my colleague does as well. So we do a lot of knowledge sharing today. So which is a good thing. Okay. So yeah. So I think last time we tried to build a property add-on, but it was quite complicated. So we kind of paused there. But today we gotta tackle it. So first things first. I was explaining last time. The way how we should build a schema is that because the thing with schema.org for the properties. So okay, explanation of property. What is the properties domain? What is the properties range? So a properties domain, that means that what it is describing. So for example, I always use this as an example. I have an event, so that's an object. The event has a property venue. So venue, the domain of venue will be the event. Um, so a range, range would be what type of data this domain, like this property, is having. So for venue, it could be as an address, which is a string. So that could be that. So it could be a string that is describing the address. It could be for example, event. You have event date. So event date could have actually like two ranges. You could have the date and time. So for some events, it's a whole day event, or it's like a holiday. So it's just it's the whole day. So I don't have to specify the time. But for a lot of cases, if it's a concert or something, you have a specific time, right? So date and time. So that's why a lot of objects, they will have multiple domains and range. So for example, an object could be a property of two things, right? Like a venue. So the address of a venue could be address of an office. So it could have two domains. So addresses could have two domains. So that's why we have to do some trick before that, because in terms DB, we try to have for each property, we try to have one domain and one range. So how can we deal with it? We gotta wrap all these multiple domains and multiple range with a parent. So they belongs to, like, they are subclass of this parent. So what we're gonna do, we gotta write a function to create this fake, or kind of parents of the domain and range to deal with all these multiple craziness. So let's put it here. Right, so we are still constructing things. So I put the constructions functions before. Actually, I can add some comment here to make it neat. So write too much JavaScript. um, right, so yeah, okay, now this is right. These will be like execution functions. So below are the execution functions. Before are the construction functions. Right, so I can actually like put it here. Try to be nice. Try to be proper. Oop. You see, like my keyboard is doing funny things. Okay, these are construction functions. Right, so we gotta, actually before I go into this, I gotta check my terminal. Yes, I now have the, okay, now I should be able to construct the virtual env, right? I can't type with this keyboard. Virtual env. Ooh. Okay, let's call it Waco tutorial. How about that? It's exciting. I have a brand new canvas of making all this new environment now. So instead of my old, you can see like how much I use this. Like you can see like yeah. So okay, so let's get into this environment. So pyenv up, pyenv activate. So this Wacko tutorial. Oop. Why is not? Wacko. Do I type it right? Okay. Somehow the autocorrection is not working for this terminal. Like, oop. Fail to. Oops. Has not been loaded. Oh, I think I need to run the loading script. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. Let me Google like and activate auto activate script. Yeah, I think you have to put some yeah. These could be problematic. I may not be able to show you now because I have to fix this yeah, the shelf initiate. I think you need to put in the VRC the source installation bash yeah, command of maybe this one is like the person having the same problem. Yes, I'm using CSH. So in my old computer I'm using like a bash, and this is a different one. So that would be the reason why it's not helpful. However, if simply add, yeah, I don't want to debug it right now. It's like it's not about like how to make your virtual end work. Yeah, I don't want to spend more time on this one. Expose maybe that's yeah, that's I guess it's like being installed in local. Yeah, I don't want to debug it. Okay, so sorry about that. We are not going to run this script today. I'm just gonna construct it, and then maybe next time I can run it. So sorry about that. I totally forgot about like my environment hasn't been so I just have this set up yesterday. So I haven't really do any coding with it yet. Still, so yeah, so it's a little bummer today. Sorry about that. It'll get better. Okay, so wait, let's just construct it. Okay, here. Okay, let's do the domain and the range. So construct a property. So I'll just prop uh, domain and range. So it's a funny name, but I hate naming things. It's the most difficult thing in coding. So I think I would do the same thing, right? So I would have a series that I would, go through all of these properties one by one, and I would also have a list of type lists. I need to check whether that property exists. So it's like what we did with the add-on. So, and what I gotta do is, I think it's gonna be super similar to the schema add-on, right? So we would have multiple things. So we'll have a result to store all this Wacko query objects that we construct. And so if okay, let's do it like step by step. So what I gotta do is like I want to have a new object that is the parent of the domain and the range, right? So we are just like faking it. So let's say like we just construct an object out of the blue. So Wacko query dot doc type. So I forgot the bracket again. Doc type would be let's call it let's take the series ID and call it domain. Like it's like the value here. We want to keep like some identifier, so I would just take the series ID and then add it as so this is domain, right? Oh, it should be a string. Sorry about that. Right. So this is what I gotta do for the domain. I can do the same thing with the range, right? So okay. So this is totally not right, but I'm just like construct it with my logic, okay? So okay, so we will create a domain and an object doc type to hold the parents of the or domain of the property and the range of the property. But there's a catch if that property doesn't have a domain or a range, or even it just like have one, then we don't have to do this finicky thing, right? So we just do a check. So if the so if this series So what's the name of it? I am obviously cheating. I'm looking at the code I've constructed before, because I have, if I am doing it blind, I have to look at the CSV, which I'm not right now. So yeah, I don't remember how like all these column names of the CSV. That is impossible. So includes. So domain includes will be like the column of the CSVs that tell you what is the domain of that object. So if this is a string, so it's not none, so there's something in it. So type. Oops, sorry, this is horrible. Okay, I have to wrap it anyway, so okay. So actually there are two requirements, conditions, or whatever you how you call it. I'm horrible with naming things. You can see. So um, so a type of this field is a string, so it's not empty. And I would like to have a line break here because otherwise I will go insane. Okay, up. And I can't do it with this keyboard. Ooh, what's the alternative? No, okay. Oh, I can't type the stroke with this keyboard. What? Okay, I would just leave it then. It would soft wrap anyway with my atom. So, but it's just. But how come like? Yeah, I'm getting a better keyboard. Don't worry. It's just funny. Okay, so the second condition, you have to bear with this like horrible indentation at the moment. So, um, or there's multiple. So if there's only one domain, so this field domain includes will only have one thing. It could be domain includes uh, like those like schema.org, http schema.org event. So that would be one. So, but if it's multiple, if it's like event and office, so it's like http schema.org event comma http schema.org office. So I want to basically check whether the commas exist in this string. So I just check whether the comma exists in this string. So I know that where there is a multiple, so comma in this, right? So let's do Python tips. So because Python, like a lot of programming language, if you have this and course, it will check the first one. If it's a false, it will just, it doesn't care about the second one. Because if you have two conditions, if the first one is false, then there's no way your end course will pass. So this is good because if it's a none, the second condition won't be executed. If you put it the other way around, you will have an error because if you have a none for this series domain includes, then you can't do it like this, right? You can't check whether a comma is in a none. So that would give you an error. So always put that like if you have any course, put the first requirement first. So if you do the operation for your second condition, that assuming that the first condition is true, so you have to keep that order. So that's the Python tip, and another Python tip, if you're, I think all of you that are watching are more familiar with Python, but if in case you are not, that because a string is a series of character and it's like a sequence, so it's a subclass of sequence. So in Python you can just check like this using in. It's super convenient. Okay. So this one would be if I have, if I have a multiple domain, then I do this. And like before, like all these things like this, I have to append it in result. So I'm super lazy and I don't want to type, so I'll just copy it. And yeah. Oops, you see, I can't even copy and paste. Okay, append this query in the result. So I can output it in one go. Yeah. Right. So do the same thing for the range. So it's easy. So it's just like, actually, I would just copy this and change it to range. That's the only difference between the two. So, up, right. So this will be range. Right. And then don't forget to return your result. Right. Okay, so this is like the little like tiny things that we have to do to make it work. But we're only doing a part of it. The catch is, like I said, is in the last episode is complex. It's not that easy. So this is just creating that parent. We haven't linked it to the actual domain and range yet. So what we're gonna do is gonna be something similar to this, but instead of subtype, like actually it's kind of like is basically this. It's just creating a parent. So what I gotta do is that let me think. Yeah. So what I do previously, I would just create a schema. So it's kind of similar to this. I'll just copy. I'm a super lazy person. I'll just copy everything if I could. Okay. Yeah. So this is another add-on that we have to do. So it's like extra relations we have to deal with for the property types. So for the properties. Uh, so construction schema add-on. So I would just call it naming again. What should I call it? Just like call it add-on property. Just add property at the end. I don't want to think. Okay. This is for the property. So for property, like it won't have the subtype of and the subtype, but it will have this like domain thing that we have to deal with. So so what we're gonna do is actually quite complex. That I'm going to do it step by step for you. So we do have time today. I don't have connection problems. I think like it's just if my computer's processing is not fast enough, it just create extra problem for my internet connection. So now this is good. Right. So I would have a like all these things. I'll have the results, but the thing is like because it's a property, so I want to let the schema knows that it's a property. So for so I would just like put it here because like it will exist for all of them, right? So I can just assuming that is there. So instead of starting with a empty list for the result, I would have the obviously must have query in there. So maybe I would just type it and explain. It's difficult to type and explain. So this is interesting because this is different from what we had before. Quote at quote series ID. And then I will have. I'm typing so slow. I'm so sorry. Right. I will have the RDF type. And I would have a owl object property. And the last one will be schema. Okay, explanation. So this Wacko query object, what it does is that it created a new chord, which is a defining a relations in the graph. But instead of like relations between different objects, is creating that is what it does is that because like you can have a property object and property objects could be having a different it could it's just an object if we don't specifically tell Wacko that it's a property. And like I explained before, there's two type of property. There's object property that the property itself is an object, or there is the data type object, the data type property that is the simple type. So all of these, because like the simple type, we already deal with it here, that we just attach the simple type, the values, to the object that it contains. So address is actually a string, right? So we would have an address value, which is a string, will be attached to address. So here, so for address is let's say it's a property for the venues, but the address would be an object property instead of a data type property that we have already dealt with in the value. So we create an extra layer for it. So why we are doing it? Because we have the convenience of all the property that we input from CSV will be an object property. So we won't have, so the only difference between a simple type and a not a simple type is that simple type will have an extra layer of values sitting, below it that holds the values, the actual value of that property in the data property format. So if that makes sense, sorry, like this is super complicated to explain. Yeah. So like I said, this tutorial series is more advanced, like intermediate. I won't say advanced, but so if you're new, completely new, I would advise you to check out our blog for the bike data. It's like building your first terminus DB graph. Or if you go to our repo, I'll put the link of the repo below. Go to the bike tutorial one, the bike data one. That is the most. That would be the 101 for Waco. Um, so after that, after doing that, we also have a blog post. I think the link is also in the repo. Go to the blog post, follow the tutorial, and after you've done that, you'll have a better understanding of this, and you can come back to this, and it won't be as scary as now. So this, yeah, so this is the is just creating a relations in the graph, saying like this object that we input from the properties CSV is a property. It's an object property. It's not something else. So we have that, and now we actually like create that like domain includes and like oops, I think this is oops. Oh, I spot a mistake. So it's ranging include. So yeah, good. It's like maybe somebody's like reminding me in the chat, but I'm not looking at the chat at the moment. No. Okay, fine. I will survive. Okay, so this range. Okay. Oh, that's bad because like this is range as well. Okay. Right. So like we actually doing this like domain and range include. We actually putting those multiple domain and multiple range under their parents, which we created here. Um. Okay. So we would check whether they are multiple again. So I just copy it like everything else. Right. So um yeah, if I have this, what I would do is that I would do the thing similar to this subtype thing, right? So for each of them, so I just break it into with the comma. So like for each comma, just break it into different, and then just strip like if there are white spaces, remove it for me, so you can like put them in one by one. So it's the same operation as this. So I'll just copy it, and you can see like this looks very complex, but once you understand how this graph thing works, it's just the same thing again and again. So I want to press this. Okay. And so yeah, for it's not kid, is let's say domain. So for each domain, um, oop, okay, each domain in the series of domain includes. Let's split it for me, please, and strip it for me. I just like need to replace all this name. And if this domain is an object in our object list, it's like type list that we created, then um, uh, so this domain will be a subclass of the this one that we created before, right? So remember we have created that specifically for this. So yeah, so this is for the domain. We gotta do the same for but before that, remember this is only dealing with multiple domains. So we still like if there's no domain, we don't have to do anything. But if there's one domain, we still have to deal with it. So what will be the better thing to do is I will break this into two if. So this gonna look horrible. Okay, if so like well if it has a domain and if it has multiple domain, do this following things for me. That's what I'm going to do. If right. Okay. But if it has a domain but it's not multiple, which is a single, then do something else for me. So what I gotta do is like instead of the for loop, I would just, put that in, right? So this is what I gotta do. Right, the indentation is this. Okay. So this one would be the domain includes. Now the domain includes will be just one thing, so we can just use that. And I'm not copying it right. Okay. Right. So just replace all of this domain with this one, and um, right. Why do we have to do this? We don't have to do this. um, domain is domain includes. Yeah. Right. So actually, we don't have to be like having the parents. So actually, I skipped something. So sorry about that. So what I gotta do here is like, cause remember, um, when we create the parents, we forgot to do one thing, and we actually forgot to put that as the domain of the. Okay, let's fix it here, and then we'll fix it like the previous one. So what I gotta do is that for here, domain includes. So I don't need to attach it to the parents, but what I gotta do is that I gotta attach it to the property object itself. So so I gotta accord. So this is the series. So this object actually is a domain of the of its domain include. So it's the you know yeah. So it's like the domain of it will be this domain, please. So that will be that. And this is super complicated, and sometimes like I missed something before. That's why I was like, wait a second, that's not right. But it's good. I found something that I have been missing before. So I talking about missing. I'm missing a bracket here. Good. Okay. Um. Right. So yeah. So what we did here is like I said, we just like append this back to the So it's like okay, the domain will be this. Because I just have one. I don't have this finicky thing. But for this one, so I have. Let me triple check. Yes, so it's like we just put that as the subclass of something, but at the same time we have to attach this parents of the domain in like do the same operation here, right? So you have to say the domain of this object is that. So I'm missing. I haven't done this for the parents, so that's why it could be the problem. So where I gotta add it is that, but like after I have run through the for loop, so I've built this relationship um with all my domains put under an umbrella, which is the parents domain, and now I have to put this domain as the domain relationship. I have to build it. So after the for loop, and I have to run this like the similar to this. So instead of putting the domain includes, I have to put the this is missing an S. So I have to put this series ID. So this is the thick domain that we created, which is an umbrella of the domain. So here, right. So now it should be right. Now it should be right. And I'll update the script in the repo as well, so you have the most updated and the correct one. So yeah, right. And what else? Yeah. So okay, this is super complicated, and we have to do it again for range, and we are not going to like do it again. We just copy, which is a good thing. I like copying things. Well, there are some drawbacks if you just copy and paste all the time, but in cases like this, like I would rather change them by myself. Yeah, but the catch is like you can have errors. Like for example, like the previous one that I forgot to change all this domain to range. So you will have errors if you just copy and paste all the time. So that's why if you could wrap things in functions. Yeah, but for this one, I think it's already very complicated. I could actually like see if I can parameterize this and put in a function. Um, but I am not going to do it now. I may do it like afterwards and tidy up the script to upload it for you, but not now. Not when I'm showing you stuff and I have to fix the my environment as well, so I can run it to make sure it's correct. That's what I gotta do after this streaming. Oh, you see, there's lots of mistake here. No, this is not okay. This is correct because I'm putting this range here, but this one should be just range, and this one should be this range. Right, and if I only have one, then what I gotta do is just put it as the range. So yeah, like it would be great if we can just like put all this range and domain in, but I've been told that that would be super messy and it's not a good idea. So I should really have a parents to wrap it up. So that's why we're doing it in this funky way. Okay, um, that's that. And what we gotta do after is that we gotta write. Um, oh, this is, I think this is just debugging thing. We don't need that. Yeah, we just return the result. It should be fine. Yeah, I have the result. Yeah, I have a little debug thing in my original script that is now in the repo. And what it does is like, as I believe that for the version, for the CSV version that I have from schema.org, that they have one deprecated property that, uh, yeah, that like it's just like the object and everything is like wrong, so it won't execute any of this, and it will return an empty list, and it will give me an error at the end. So that's why. That's why. Oh yeah, actually it's not a debug script. I have to include it. Sorry. So what I do is like before I return it, I do this like fail-safe check. So like I said, if it's deprecated, just don't return anything. So if it's so that's the special case that, because basically all this check if is not work because it got nothing. Um, the property doesn't have a domain, doesn't have a range, because that's the deprecated one, and we only have this thing at the top. And if I just leave it and return that thing, it would give me an error afterwards. So if it's that, I would just return an empty list, so nothing would be executed afterwards. Right. This is a super complicated function. Sorry about that. I think I could wrap this up like this, like in a function. But well, so far I hope it's fine. I can't even run to test it. Sorry about that. I'm really disappointed about it. And yeah, don't do things last minute. That's what I learned from it. Okay. And yeah, the color is really like now you're seeing my green screen instead. Yeah, well, it's fine. I will fix that. And yeah, and I think there isn't much that I have to add. I hope I didn't miss a lot of things. So, oop, what is this? Oop, what have I done? Oh yeah, this is the old thing. We can just delete this. Sorry. Yeah, right. And then we execute them afterwards. We execute them like usual. We gotta reuse this, right? So like I said, we have two. That's different because for objects, for each query that we take in, it will be a single query. But for the add-ons, because we return the result as a list, we have multiple queries. We have to unwrap and wrap it with Waco. So we can reuse those, it's fine. So what I gotta add is here. So for the properties, I have created the object. I haven't done the add-on, so I gotta do it now. So, um, right. So it's kind of similar to this one, but yeah, but instead of type, it will be properties. And so this is not right. So this is what I had before. Sorry, it's super messy. I don't like this. Maybe I can make it. Yeah, this is much better. But are you seeing it all right? Because my face is covering it because this camera thing is not doing well for me. I have to fix the light, I think. Okay, so the new thing is this one. I have added a new add-on object, which is fine. I can keep this name. I don't want to name stuff. This one should be not the schema add-on. It should be the schema add-on property. The super complicated thing that we just built. And query objects. Yeah, yeah. The types, yeah, it should be the types. We are checking generally like whether that's the type object. So yeah, it should be. Let me double check to be sure. Well, but I would run it to triple check anyway to make sure that the script uploaded is correct and you can use it. And yeah, that's what I believe that is. And I have to execute it like after like here, right? So yeah. Oh, wait. I forgot one thing. That's the thing about like triple checking it. I forgot to add this thing. So what I gotta do is that for each property I have to create this. Um, so I gotta do this, and this is query objects namings. Okay, I will just horrible naming. Um, right. So property dr. I need to call this as well, and I probably need this one as well. Yeah. All right. Let me check the the add-ons. Yes. I don't. Ooh. Sorry, I didn't realize that. I didn't check whether the thing is in the type list, so actually I don't need it because, like, yeah, I just take them in, and it's not like the domain in the range that we have to check whether they are actual domain in the range because we just created from nothing, so we don't have to check. So we don't need. So this is fine. So this is fine. Okay. What else? So this is the range of the domain object and the add-on. I do the add-on, and it should be fine. And then basically, yeah, basically now I can execute them by calling these functions with different parameters. So create schema for life, create schema for properties. PRT. Oop, like I don't like this. Properties. Yes, and I am creating schema objects because I'm taking the first one in and it returns a single thing for me. I can basically do this with properties. So put that in, right? And then create schema for dr objects. I just got dr objects. Like yeah. And I gotta use the add-on one because it's a list, right? So that's the only difference. So that would be a list of properties, and I save it as. I've got the name where I call it something dr. Oh, this one. Yeah, sure. Like I would just put that in, and I gotta execute add-on, so it'll be similar to this one. Yep. Add-on for properties. So query add-on object. Alright, this is properties. So yeah, okay. I think that's it. That should work. I hope. And I'm sorry that my Python environment is funky today because I haven't set it up yet. It's the thing with the new computer, but it's almost time. It's almost time. I would execute it next time for you. And what else? What else? That like now we have the schema put in. What we gotta do is that we gotta try to use the schema to verify some websites to see if we can put the object like from the website into the database according to the schema. this will be the real application. It could be useful for a lot of things. It could be useful for if you're doing like a retailing website, that you could have the catalogs that that could store in the graph, which is you can scrape the whole catalog and put it in a data Thomas DB graph. So there are lots of applications because, like I said, schema.org is everywhere. So a lot of websites actually do have this schema built in, and if with this you can basically, and I will show you a little tool next time as well in Python, that you can take all this this metadata in the web page and create a graph with it. So it will be more exciting next time, and so far it seems that the streaming is smooth. The only problem is the light, and I haven't got my development environment set up. It will be okay next week because I'll be actually doing some coding this weekend. So yeah, so it will be usable next week, and I'll fix the light, put it in maybe a better place so my background, or maybe like the auto correction from the camera. I need to fix that. So yeah, it's an hour, and thank you for sitting through if you're sitting through the whole hour. So yeah, so thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this series, and we will keep doing it. And uh, yeah, this is actually fun. It's like my colleague said, it's like IKEA, that you build your own furniture. I think that's true. That's why I like coding. I like building my own things that works. And we'll put this into action next week. We'll actually scrape some website. I think we'll scrape one of the website that is like that I set up, because that is easier because I know what's going on in it. Um, yeah. So I would, before I see you next week for Werewolf Wackelcraft on Sunday, we'll still have our Python tutorial. And so if you I don't know how, like if you accidentally click into this, or if you're interested in Wacko but you're this new to you because of the Python, the Python tutorial is for you. So yeah, so uh, I will see you very very soon, and we have more contents coming up. So pay attention to the YouTube channel of Terminus DB. That we have lots of good content coming up. We have the webinar, we have the discussion. Is basically is like our all hands meeting that colleagues is sharing knowledge. So it's a good channel to follow, to watch all these videos. So yeah, I will see you very soon. Bye bye.